Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome to PlayLoad. This is all my video game pickups for the month of October 2019. Pretty crazy month, honestly. I did this big Pacific Northwest trip, which had a lot going on. I got to go out to Seattle for my friend Kelsey Lewin's wedding. I'm sure a lot of you know her. She's part of the Metal Jesus Rocks crew, one of my best friends. It was good, of course, to see those guys, as I always do, which I knew I'd be seeing them like a week later, so that was a little weird. But anyway, so I went to Seattle for the wedding, and then I got a flight down to San Francisco for some stuff, and then from there, after that was all done, my buddy picked me up, and we went from San Francisco, and we drove up to Portland, making a stop in Sacramento. And along the way, we also stopped in Bend, Oregon. And why would we do that? We went to the last Blockbuster, which is where the shirt comes from. Contrary to popular belief, the last Blockbuster is not in Alaska. That one shut down. The Bend, Oregon one is the last one. And I'm sure there's a lot of questions about that. I know based on social media, it was blowing up. People were like, oh my God, Blockbuster. I will be doing an entire video all about the experience of Blockbuster. I'm calling it, like, you know, the last Blockbuster night. For those who grew up on it, I'm sure you get that. But the video is coming soon, so stay tuned. That'll be a thing, so we don't focus on it too much, but it was cool. But yeah, so primarily when I went to Portland, I was really there for the Portland Retro Game Expo. Now, the Portland Retro Game Expo this is my second year going. I was what you might call an informal guest, where I basically had all of the perks of being a guest, but really none of the responsibilities, so I didn't do any panels or any of that type of thing, but I got, you know, VIP access to everything and all that stuff. So it's just cool. For me, it was just like fun. But it was cool fun, as if there's another. I also got to hang out with my buddy Terry Diebold. He's the guy who owns the Nintendo PlayStation prototype for now. Again, that's another thing. I will have an entire video coming up about that, because if you're unaware, the Nintendo PlayStation prototype, which was a thing, even further back, Sony and Nintendo at one time, they were going to make a console together. It didn't work out. They made one machine. Well, they made 200, but 199 of them were destroyed. This is the only surviving unit. My buddy owns it, and he's been touring the world with it. He is going to be selling it, or he's trying to sell it, so its last possible public appearance was at PRGE 2019. A company called Go Collect, which we'll be talking a little bit more about them soon, funded that. They said, hey man, you're not quite done. We want you here. We want you at PRGE this year. So they paid his way there. But it is possible, because he is actively trying to sell it, that it can go at any time. So, and there's no other conventions currently lined up for it. So with that being the case, that convention was possibly the last time you'll ever see it, at least publicly. Other than like behind glass or in photos, or who knows, some guy's vault. We don't know where it might end up, but either way, that was cool. And that was awesome because Terry's a good friend of mine, so he let me be the guy who like set up the console. I got to hook it up with all sorts of stuff. I hooked it up with some HD Retrovision RGB component cables, a Retro Tank, and an M Classic, and I just kind of threw it all in there, and it was just like, it looked really good. The video quality off that thing is crazy good, so that was fun. And because I knew the possibility of it being its last day, I wanted to go out with a bang. So my buddy Kikona owns a Hitachi Saturn, the GPS model. I've seen this thing in pictures before, but I had never seen one in person. But he had one there at the show just as a display piece. Now, the way this thing worked was in 1996, Hitachi got the license from Sega to produce their own version of the Saturn, and they specifically designed this one for cars. Like, the idea was you'd put it in the car, kids can play video games in the back, whatever, and then it also had a functional GPS in 1996, which is insane. It's an extremely uncommon version of the Sega Saturn. Other than this one, I had never seen one, certainly never one for sale. So it was really cool that he let me not only see this thing, but he actually let me display it all day next to the Nintendo PlayStation prototype. And with that, I also borrowed the Atari Jaguar dental unit, also known as the Hot Rod. I did an entire video on this thing as well. The Atari Jaguar dental unit, basically when Atari went out of business, they sold off the molds of the Jaguar to a company called Imogen. Imogen turned it into dental equipment, known as the Hot Rod. It didn't sell particularly well because it was out of date by the time it was released. It used SCSI for connection as opposed to USB, so according to Steve, the guy who did the whole thing, I did an interview with him, he said they only sold like a handful ever, maybe like 6 or 7. So my buddy Jesse owns one of those because he works at Imogen now. And I was like, dude, I want to put all 3 of these things together and just let the public see all this insanity all at once. and we got to do exactly that. It was really very cool. And a little cool like bonus to that, we got to go hang out with the dude from Atari Age for a little bit. I've seen that guy a couple of times. He's very stoic, at least the head guy who runs Atari Age, or at least the one they put at conventions. Very stoic guy. I never really got much emotion out of him. But then we put that Jaguar dental unit in front of him. Not just the plastic shells. Those are common. Like those, they were mass produced. But the one with like the functional operational camera guts inside, he had never seen one of those because no one really has. And so we showed it to him. He got like, oh man, he started fangirling a little bit, taking a bunch of photos. So it was nice to just cheer somebody's day up. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the vibe I was going for with the whole setup. I wanted obviously the Nintendo PlayStation was the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. But, just a little bit of celery, some, garnish, probably a better term, garnish on the side with having those other rare devices just so people can come over and see those things because you will literally never see those three things together ever again. So, very cool. But yeah, PRGE was a great time, and so now it's time to talk about pickups. Ironically, the first pickup I got is not actually from there. It's from Best Buy. This was Siberia Delta for the Nintendo Switch. This game is actually on clearance. This is a cool game. It's a cool shoot 'em up. My buddy Kyle in Sacramento actually was the one who kind of convinced me to go get this because it's on clearance. I still have access to a Best Buy Gamers Club Unlocked account, so it was pretty cheap to pick this up. He's making me kind of fall in love with shoot 'em ups all over again, even though I'm not very good at them. I've always loved them, but I don't know. I just had kind of not been playing them for a while because I kind of maybe got like a little bit too overexposed to them because the Dreamcast was so notorious for getting so many. In fact, Siberia has a game on the Dreamcast, Siberia 2: The Will to Fabricate, which sounds like Siberia 2: The Desire to Lie. I don't know. But either way, they had weird names. But this one's Siberia Delta. I haven't opened it yet. I haven't played it yet. But, he said it was really, really good. So I got it on that recommendation. Beyond that, though, at PRGE itself, one of the things I have been kind of making a goal for, but I haven't really been paying much attention to it because it's been so long in the making and it's just kind of a thing I chip away at if it's convenient, is a complete 32X set. And when I say complete, I mean at least just a loose cart copy, because a box set would be fantastic, but it's not realistic, and it's very not financially responsible. Not that any of this is, but I thought it'd be cool to get that going. And so one game I was missing, I think the last common game, there's really no common 32X games other than Virtua Fighter and Star Wars Arcade, maybe Doom, that I was missing was just a sports game. It was this. It's RBI Baseball 95. Now, there's actually two baseball games for the 32X, the other one being World Series Baseball. That's actually the much harder one to get, but that one I've had for years. Like, I got that a long time ago. But this one I never had. I would have preferred it in the box, but a boxed version is like a $100 plus game. Whereas the loose cart, there was a guy selling there for 20 bucks and asked me to take 15 and he just said yes immediately, which means I probably could have got it for less. But yeah, I went ahead and I got this off the list. It was kind of interesting because there was this dude, he had like a full 32X set, like surprising. Like, when people have 32X cards, first of all, that's surprising. But he had like a ton of them and it was just like one of each. And I was like, this looks suspicious. And he was just like, yeah, somebody traded in an entire 32X set, all loose cart. And he's like, these are just the remnants. And I was like, that makes sense. Because he's like, yeah, like Calibri and Spider-Man, like all that stuff just went immediately. So this is all that's left. But fortunately for me, the only one I needed was this one. Other than Blackthorn, I've never seen that one. That one I still need for the North American library. When it comes to the import library, there's only three. There's FIFA 96, which was a European exclusive. I have a boxed complete copy of that. Then there's Dark Side, which is a European copy. You're never going to find that without paying like $600, if not maybe $1,000. It's an extremely expensive game. There is a North American reproduction of it, and I got that because I was like, well, A, it'll work, B, it's substantially cheaper, and C, it's been like, the frame rate's improved because it goes 60 hertz instead of 50 hertz, so it's actually playable. That's the problem is 32X is also region locked, so whatever. Nobody bothered with doing reproductions of FIFA 96, and I can understand why, but at least Darkside was like a real game, even if it wasn't a great game, so that's the only 32X reproduction that really exists, at least for the North American library. And then there's one Japanese exclusive, which is like Romance of the Three Kingdoms. This like, RTS, Japanese RTS, like I've seen it before. It is the only Japanese exclusive for that platform. And it's super expensive as well. The cheapest I've ever seen is a loose cart in person in Japan for $100, and I'm just like, I don't need that. Especially again, it's unplayable, it's region locked, And even if it wasn't region locked, it's still an RTS. It's not even a game I would enjoy. Not that I'm going to sit here and enjoy RBI Baseball 95, but at least if I really wanted to, I could play it. Plus, it was only $15. See what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by I want to do it, but it's not really a high priority. If I find those other games like cheap enough, I'll pull the trigger and I'll be done with it. So sub goal, if that makes sense. Now, a more primary goal, granted one I haven't paid too much attention to either, is an original OG Xbox set. Conventions like this are a good place to get stuff like this because a lot of bins there are just full of this kind of stuff, and you just basically have to pick the ones you want or the cheap ones, whichever ones you need. Obviously, follow your own logic, but here's what I ended up getting. Colin McRae Rally 3, ESPN 2K5, which I think was the last time Sega did a basketball game, like a sports one, because they used to have that license before they ended up selling off Visual Concepts to Take-Two, who turned them into 2K. Outlaw Golf, Holiday Golf. This is actually an interesting one because there's a few different versions of this, and I think I now have them all other than the actual base game. But yeah, there's actually more of these than you would think. This one I had to pick up because this one was just absolutely fitting. This is Outlaw Golf 9 Holes of Christmas, but why is that fitting? It was a Blockbuster exclusive. Yep. So it actually has the Blockbuster logo on it, Blockbuster exclusive on the front and on the back. I had to pick this up. It's as far as I know, not really all that different from this version. It just has some extra content and extra stuff in it. Yeah, so 9 all-new holes for the holidays, not included with the original Outlaw Golf. There you go. Prisoner of War by Codemasters, which I believe is based on that movie, The Escape, The Great Escape, although loosely based, like same concept, but obviously not the same characters or anything like that. Although I think Great Escape actually did have a video game as well. Maybe that's what I'm remembering, so forget that. WWE WrestleMania 21, Become a Legend. Oh damn, John Cena was wrestling back then? I did not know that. I had no idea. I haven't followed wrestling really since like the early aughts, so I had no idea that John Cena was that popular back then. The Warriors, which I know a lot of people like this game. Total Immersion Racing. Tenchu Return from Darkness. When was the last Tenchu game? It's been a while, right? Like, I think we got one on like the 360 or the PS3, but I think that was the end. And then finally, The Sims Bustin' Out. Remember that era where The Sims was like super popular and they're putting on everything, even on consoles, which was a bad idea because even I, a devout console gamer, will freely admit The Sims really only works on a PC. I will say that straight up. But that said, I still got it anyway. So there you go. That was my OG Xbox pickups. I also got some GameCube stuff. The first up is, I should mention this if I haven't before. Well, I have before, but in this video I haven't. When it comes to the OG Xbox, like I'm looking for the full set. I want every game released. The entire North American library, plus the European exclusives, plus the Japanese exclusives. And I chipped away a good chunk, obviously. 8, whatever. There's about 1,000 games. When it comes to the GameCube, I don't quite have as lofty of a goal. My goal with the GameCube is every game that was released on GameCube that was not released on the original Xbox, which does shrink that number down substantially, like to a couple hundred. I think I need like 4 more of the European ones. I think I need like 4 or 5 Japanese ones, and ironically, it's the American library that's like, I don't know, 100 or so that I still need, something like that. So I managed to chip away at a couple of them. This is Naruto Clash of the Ninja. This had a sequel here, and then the 3rd and 4th game, as I understand it, only came out in Japan. I actually have those. They did eventually come here, but on the Wii. But as far as GameCube is concerned, they came out in North America. The first 2 in North America, and the 3rd and 4th in Japan only. And the other one I got was Nicktoons Battle for Volcano Island. I knew I was kind of old looking at this when I only knew SpongeBob. The Fairly Odd Parents I recall, but the thing is, those 2 characters have been around like forever. These 2 are still basically active, which is kind of insane. I have no idea who this dude is, which probably says something. But that said, they don't have many of the other Nicktoons I'm even aware of. But then again, I think Nickelodeon, especially back then, was kind of abandoning a lot of their lore. So whatever. Got those GameCube games. Oh, I should have showed you this earlier. My badge for Portland Retro Game Expo. I don't know why I didn't show you that. The badge this year was cool. I have what's technically an exhibitor badge. Whatever. It looks like a Game Boy. I like it. Now, One other thing I got to do was hang out with the dudes from GG Retro Gaming. Now, that name might sound familiar. I've mentioned them before in various pickup videos. They've been really cool to me. They've given me a lot of pickups over the years, or over the last year or so. I met them originally at SAC GamerCon in Sacramento 2018. And since then, he's just been occasionally sending me stuff. And he even flew me out to Sacramento once because I had some discs that were damaged. And he was like, hey, man, I got this disc resurfacer. If you're willing to, like, show people, I'd be happy to bring you here. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah. So I went out to Sacramento, and he repaired my discs. And I was happy to show you guys that that option exists to you. So when I saw him there, then, you know, decided, hey, what's up? He's doing a lot of console mods now. They only had a couple there on site, some like modified Game Boys and things like that. But I'll put a link in the description if you want to check him out. He sells a lot of used games, obviously. There's a coupon code in there too if you're interested. You can pick stuff up. I think honestly, just kind of support the guy because he was super cool to me. You know, I appreciate that what he's been doing for the community and all that stuff. And hardworking guy. So seriously appreciate it. But he also did this. He gave this to me. This is Star Wars Rebel Strike Rogue Squadron 3. It's a limited edition preview disc. Now the thing with this disc is it was a demo for Star Wars Rogue Squadron Rebel Strike, but the neat thing about it is it had a bonus game on board, which was the Atari Star Wars Arcade original game is actually playable right off of this disc, which as far as I know was not on the final build of the game. So this is a cool little perk that has like basically its own, it's essentially Star Wars Arcade by Atari for the GameCube. Which is a nice little cool thing. So I'm kind of getting into some of these oddball demo discs for GameCube, so it's nice to get one of those. So once again, thank you to GG Retro Gaming, and again, there will be a link in the description to them. Another dude who I'm going to give another shout out to is Ryan from Castlemania Games. This dude has been super cool to me. In fact, he gave me a couple of items here that I want you to see. Again, link in the description because he deserves it. He's a hardworking dude who's just kicking ass in the retro scene. He had this sent to me. I don't even totally remember what it is. It's funny because I saw him at the con, but he didn't actually have these. He just had this shipped directly to me. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Inside, I believe, okay, yeah, I remember now. This is the Genesis Mini Brawler. Now, unfortunately, so this is made by Retro Fighters. Now, I covered their Nintendo 64 controller already. This is specifically the Brawler for the Genesis Mini that Sega put out. It also works on PC, Mac, and Switch. Now, I don't actually own a Genesis Mini, so I can't really use it there. I don't game on PC, but this will be pretty useful for the Nintendo Switch if I want to play the Sega Genesis collection that's on there. I'm assuming possibly that it would work on the Xbox One version or the PS4 version, but I guess I don't totally know. It doesn't say that, so I don't know. But either way, very cool. I didn't even, until I honestly am only vaguely remembering now that he mentioned this. I forgot that they were even making a controller specifically for the Genesis, the Retro Fighters Genesis, so that's very cool to see and to have. So thank you very much to Ryan at Castlemania Games, but we're not done thanking him. He hooked me up with a couple of other random things. When I first saw him this time, he just gave this to me, this little thing, and so I'm going to show you what it is. It is just a little dongle, I don't even know what to call this, a little box. This is a little device that you use to test HDMI latency. And basically you plug a device into it and then you plug it to the TV and it just kind of, tells you if there's how many frames of lag it might be producing. Just a little tool. It's not really a video game device specifically, but it's just kind of cool that I can use for future tests if need be. So thank you very much, Ryan. And the other thing that he kind of gave me, or we kind of got through him, which was a little bit spoiled by Brett Weiss, other YouTuber. He did a video where he was talking about his pickups from Portland, and he mentioned me specifically, and he had a photo of me doing this. One thing I was looking for when I was there was I was looking for a Sega Saturn case, because a while back I got this artwork for a release of Christmas Nights. Christmas Nights was a version of Nights into Dreams for the Sega Saturn that Sega put out later. In Japan, it was a full retail release. In North America, though, it was just this little promo disc that they included with certain stuff. So if you have Christmas Nights, it's basically like having a separate game, except it doesn't have a nice long box. Ben Boyd, a guy in Europe, decided to make cool artwork for it. He's been doing that for a while, and I bought the artwork from him, which I showed on a previous video. The problem with it, though, is it doesn't have the case. So there you go. So I wanted to get a case. So I figured, okay, what's the best move? Just find a cheap sports game and pick that up. So I was kind of thumbing through Ryan's games, just looking for the cheapest one. And then when I found it, I was like, yo, all right, dude, I'm going to get this. And he was like, oh, dude, just take it. So he just gave me the case. So thank you, Ryan, for that. But now, because of that, I have a nice, beautiful, long box copy of Christmas Nights, which is essentially indistinguishable from a commercial release. Like, the artwork on this is so good. The case is obviously a legitimate case. And then inside, I need to put in one of those foam things, but inside you also have the Christmas Nights disc, which is, of course, a legitimate disc. And then I'm going to put it in one of those, like, plastic protector cases. But yeah, this is essentially just like a perfect Sega Saturn release. So thank you very much to all parties involved in making that happen. It's awesome to basically add that right into the collection. Now, as I mentioned before, there's this company called Go Collect. They were the sponsors of PRGE this year, and I hit it off really well with them, to the point of it being like weird. Like I said, I was an informal guest. So as some of the guests will tell you, what they do at PRGE is around the time of this auction where they auction off all this like rare stuff. Before that, they have this like $50 a plate dinner that's for VIPs only. I was not invited to said dinner. However, the dudes at Go Collect were like, yeah, we like it. You should come to the dinner. And I was like, I wasn't invited. He's like, oh, you're invited now. So I went from not being invited to the dinner to being at like the premiere table, like with all the people who actually like backed the whole thing. It was really strange. And then you go a few tables down, and there's all my buddies from like YouTube, the Metal Jesus crew and all that stuff are over there, and they're like looking at me like, how did you end up in that table? And I'm like, I don't know. It just happened. But yeah, so we had this great dinner. It was really good. And they also gave me a free shirt, which I'll show you guys right here. It just says, their company name on it, and Go Collect. So these, like I said, these are the guys that were responsible for bringing the Nintendo PlayStation prototype to PRGE this year. If it weren't for them, its final appearance would have already happened, most likely. So I'm super appreciative of them for that. And there might be more to say about them down the road, but we'll see how that plays out. But either way, thank you to them for all their efforts when it comes to this event. And another thing I got as a cool little perk here was I was hanging with Pat Contry. I'm Pat the NES Punk. I'm sure a lot of you know him. He's been working, as a lot of you I'm sure know, is on the Ultimate NES guidebook. He's been selling that for the last few years, and a lot of them. And now he's got the Ultimate Super Nintendo book. And he had given me previously a copy of the Ultimate NES, but now he gave me a copy of the Ultimate Super Nintendo guide. This has just come out, and I'm sure a lot of you already know what it is. If you're a Super Nintendo fan, like, this is pretty much a must-own, because it's like the definitive guide of like all the artwork and descriptions of every game ever released, at least in North America. And it's it's hardcover. Like, you can tell he put a lot of effort into this thing. He actually autographed it too. I think he autographed every copy. It's signed down there. So thank you very much, Pat, for hooking me up with this. That was really cool of you to do. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out as well. You can go ahead and get it. But yeah, it's cool to have both of these books in my collection now. So again, and it's a heavy book, man. Like, this is an intense book. So thank you very much, Pat, for everything you did on this. It's one of the things I love about the gaming community, man, is like everybody's got these like passions. They've got these hobbies, and they just want to bring that to the table. So like Pat does all this work on this. Ben's doing work on the cases. Obviously these guys are getting involved with like bringing out people who can't necessarily have the means to get themselves to stuff. And giving away games and all this great stuff. There's just so many people in that community. It's fantastic, and PRGE really embodies that. Like, this was my second time ever at PRGE, and I can say definitively, like, if you can only ever go to one of these conventions, like any of these retro gaming conventions, if you have the budget for one, PRGE is the one. And I say that lovingly to every other retro gaming convention I've ever been to. They're all great. I've never been to a bad one. But PRGE is in a league of its own. It is Michael Jordan versus a bunch of high schoolers. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's its own thing. I can't recommend it enough. If you ever get the chance, you should definitely go to it. It's a very unique, if you're into retro gaming, and you probably are because you're watching this, it's an experience, and it's a fantastic one. But we're not quite done. Got a couple of random items here. This was a little trade I did with a guy named Nathan for some Shenmue stuff. Sorry. But we're a couple of weeks away from Shenmue 3 being released. I'm allowed to be excited. And so this is the last PlayLoad, by the way, without Shenmue 3 in the world. Just saying. So I sent him something, and he sent me this. He sent me this little card. I believe this is from 1999 or 1998, the holidays of that year. It's got this other artwork version of Shenhua on the cover. It opens up, and inside it says, "Season's greetings and best wishes for the new year from Yu Suzuki," with a fake signature. It's not really his autograph. And then on the back, it just has something it says in Japanese. And then over here it just says Dreamcast, Sega Enterprises Ltd. Old card. basically an old Christmas card or holiday card. And then the other thing he gave me was this poster from TGS in 1998. And on the back it has some information about basically where you can go and what time to check out Shenmue as it was debuting in 1998 at TGS, which is insane. But there it is. So very cool little piece of history right there for a Shenmue fan. So thank you very much, Nathan. And the last thing I got, possibly the most special and also probably the most controversial, was this. Revenge of the Bird King for the PS4. Now, a lot of you probably already know what this is. And if you don't, Revenge of the Bird King is... It really kind of... it just kind of showed up. This game actually existed digitally. I think it's still on the Switch, but infamously now is no longer on the PS4. It was available, but Sony took it down. Supposedly it was for quality control reasons because the game, frankly, isn't very good. At one point, I guess Limited Run Games was going to do some release of this. Not through their official library, but like some sort of sub-release. Because it doesn't actually denote Limited Run Games anywhere on the box, except for their website address is there. But that normal like thing on the side with the Limited Run number and all that stuff, none of that's there. So this is like and it doesn't have that like Limited Run logo on the cover either. So it was like some sort of weird spin-off project they were doing. It's also the sequel to Super Gun World 2, which actually was a Limited Run Games release. Anyway, so this game, Sony pulls the digital version and then basically tells Limited Run, like, you can't actually release that version. So he had some copies already done, and they were just like, well, what do we do with them? He's like, we don't care. You can't sell them, though. So what you can do as private sellers is just offload them. So what they did was they ended up selling, I believe it was Joe in particular, ended up selling, he brought like 45 copies to PRGE, and he ended up selling them for what he was planning to sell them for originally, which was just $60 retail. All he could do, though, he couldn't even take credit cards. Like, he could get in some serious crap from Sony for that. So he was only willing to take cash. So I got $60 cash from a buddy of mine, then paid him through PayPal, but whatever. And I bought myself a copy of this game. Now, if you look online, this game is already astronomically expensive. Like, some copies have already sold for over $1,000. Like, it is possibly the stadium events of this generation, which is an extreme statement to make. And I don't know if, even though I just said it, I don't know if I agree with it, because while people are giving it that comparison, stadium events, nobody bought because nobody knew it would be rare. This one, everybody goes into it knowing it's rare, and that makes it not as rare because everybody's prepared for it. Usually the rare ones are the ones no one's ever heard of and that no one thinks to buy. It just ends up becoming rare because nobody kept it, like Action Comics #1 or something like that. But that said, still an extremely uncommon game. And apparently the rest of them are going to be, sold off at another upcoming event in North Carolina. Some pop-up shop that's going to be down there at the end of November. I want to say November 23rd. So you still have a chance to get one if you want to go to that. But that said, it was really cool to get a copy of this. And it wasn't easy, man. Like I said, like they opened and like within a minute or two, every copy was gone. So I was in line like right away. So very cool. But yeah. That's about it. So I want to thank Joe because he's gotten a lot of crap for having, this whole process, even though it's not his fault. People have just been giving him all sorts of shit. But thank you for everything you did on this. Thank you to Nathan for the trade. Thank you to Pat for the book. Thank you to Go Collect for the shirt. Thank you to Ben for your efforts. Thank you to Ryan as well for actually giving me a case, as well as the tester thing and the controller. Thank you to GG Retro Gaming again for being, as always, very cool to me. Just thank you guys for watching. Thank you to all my friends that I got to hang out and see there. Thank you to Terry Diebold for everything you've done with the Nintendo PlayStation prototype. And again, look forward to that video, guys, because it could be like the final word on that thing. Unless something changes, which hopefully it does. I would actually hope to be wrong in that video. I want the thing to keep touring. But otherwise, that video could potentially be like its finale. And again, look forward to the Blockbuster video as well. If you guys could please like, comment, subscribe, hit all the social media stuff, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. I really appreciate it. Check out all the other guys' links as well. Check out their stuff. Like I said, this community is very passionate. They all work really hard. And just give them a look if you can. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'll see you all later.